Yes, I know it looks like I'm filming inside a tent. I've been very busy at work and in many things in life, which I'm going to share with you very shortly, but I will fix the headliner as soon as I can. So please forgive this absolutely dreadful backdrop. If you're watching this channel, there's a good chance that you like Citroens. If you don't like Citroens, you're welcome anyway. Please stay and watch. There's a good chance you like old Citroens that aren't in production anymore, which means that maybe the announcement of a new Citroen isn't really that interesting to you. But it should be, and I'll get to why later on. The subject of this video is the new Citroen ë-C3. It's the electric version of the 4th generation of the C3. What really interests me is how this ë-C3 might be a very disruptive Citroen in a very good way to Citroen's benefit. But this dovetails nicely into the subject of some of the more recent videos, namely what is a proper Citroen and what was the last proper Citroen. And I established some criteria on what makes a proper Citroen, and you can go and watch it if you click on the banner above. But this new Citroen actually ticks some of those boxes. The thing that stands out most about the ë-C3 and what makes it so potentially disruptive is its price. So the launch price for a base model is €23,300. What also interests me is how Citroen achieved this. This is the innovation part. This is Citroen going back to being innovative. They managed to make production a lot more streamlined and quicker, making it cheaper to produce, and thus obviously cheaper to sell. Lots of the things that are on the C3 were showcased on the Ollie concept, a very recent concept in fact, and I suspect there must be some 3D printing involved, because the Ollie had some 3D printed switches and 3D printed seats. I don't know, could Stellantis, which is Citroen's parent company, could Stellantis have harnessed the power of 3D printing in larger volumes? If so, that is very interesting and very disruptive in itself. The thing about the ë-C3 being so cheap is it doesn't just compete with EVs. It's not just cheap for an EV. It's a competitive car. The base price for one of these is very similar to, for example, a base VW Polo, a petrol Polo. And it's also very similar to that, for example, of a diesel Clio. So it's an alternative to these kinds of cars. But let's be honest, its direct competitors will be electric vehicles, because they're the ones it's supposed to undercut. So for example, I thought of the Dacia Spring, but I don't think the Dacia Spring is a direct competitor. First off, it's much shorter. It's only 3.7 meters long. And then it has a much smaller battery, 26 kilowatt hours, while I think, if I'm not mistaken, the C3 has a 44 kilowatt hour battery, which is worlds apart. That being said, I thought the most direct competitor for the ë-C3 would be the Renault Zoe. And the Renault Zoe cost about €36,000 according to some research I did not that long ago. And if this costs something like, even if it's €25,000, it undercuts it by such a margin that, for example, ride-sharing fleets, they won't look at the Zoe. They'll just go and buy the cheaper option if they're both equivalent. And it doesn't matter if the ë-C3 is great to drive or not. It's what's on the paper that really matters. They don't care. You know, they hire drivers to drive for them. They don't care if the driver likes the dynamics of the car or how ergonomic it is. It's just numbers on a paper to them. Thing is, I found out that the Zoe isn't sold anymore, at least not in this country. I don't know if it's going to be replaced. If it is, it's by the Twingo zero emissions version, you know, the electric Twingo, which is of course a Smart 4.4. Anyway, I'm a bit confused regarding that, and I'm not sure if you can consider the Zoe a direct competitor. I think you can. It's 4 meters long. It has a large-ish battery, I think about 40 kilowatt hours. And if that's the case, well, it would be a direct competitor. But if it's not in production, then, you know, then the ë-C3 so far will have the market to itself. There is an electric Peugeot 208, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But I think it's more expensive. If it is, it's going to pop up on screen now. The ë-C3 also is very light, which means that it is a lot more efficient. You know, the battery will last longer, so to speak. The battery will give you more range, and that's good. That means you can have a smaller battery because it's lighter. It still gives you more range than it would a heavier car, and it's less expensive because batteries probably are the most expensive component in an electric vehicle. I'm going to say something slightly controversial. I think that the ë-C3, with that lightness and simplicity and ease of manufacturing, sort of captures the spirit of Citroens of old, namely the 2CV and the AX, because they were also very light and cheap to build and very practical and lots of other good things that people look for in very basic cars. So it's distinct from the competition, and it's very innovative, and it has the potential to be disruptive. This is a proper Citroen, even if you don't like the looks. Yeah, I didn't mention the looks before, but I think they will be polarizing. First off, it looks like an SUV-ish crossover-y car, but come on, that's just the zeitgeist. That's what everyone wants these days. So what are Citroen going to do? Row against the tide and not sell? No, they're going to have to you know, roll with the punches that the automotive industry sends its way. The inside actually looks rather interesting. I'm curious to actually sit inside one and have a look for myself. It's got a 2-spoke steering wheel, as most cars seem to be tending towards these days. It's also got this very interesting dash, which is like this slit along the top of the fascia. It reminds me of a C6's dash, actually. So that's top marks for the C3 in that regard. All that's left for me to say is that I'm rooting for the success of the ë-C3 and the new C3, all of them, because if you like Citroen, even if you just like the old cars and you don't think Citroen has made a proper Citroen since the C6, then you should root for Citroen's success, because if they sell lots of these small cars that have large volume sales, then they'll probably be allowed to let their hair down and make something bigger and weirder. And not just that, a brand that manages to sell lots of new cars will create, you know, statistically there will be some enthusiasts. There will be people who buy the car, like it so much they become a brand loyalist. And of those, some of them will start to look into other models of the brand and say, oh, what's that old thing? A DS? That's amazing. What's that? A CX? That's brilliant. And they will gain interest in these old cars, and then suddenly the community of people who like old Citroens will grow, and so will the number of people trying to keep these models alive and running. So we all stand to benefit from Citroen selling lots of new cars. So, and recommend them to friends who aren't really decided. You're going to buy a Renault? No, buy a Citroen. It's a lot better. Why? Because it is. I don't know. There are some good reasons, but maybe that's a subject for another video. So this E3 employs new manufacturing techniques from the looks of it, and it also severely undercuts its competition to a point where it may completely disrupt the market. So this small Citroen might be the next big Citroen. And of course, let me know what you think. Do you think that this Citroen has the potential to crush the competition? Let me know in the comments below. So that's enough from me. If you made it this far, thank you very much indeed. Please consider subscribing, like the video, all that stuff. Check out comfortablecar.club if you're interested in car themed t-shirts, and I bid you farewell.